If you think you've seen a system failure before, wait until you hear how one weekend destroyed public trust in America's prison system. Hit subscribe, because this is a story of a man who was given freedom for 48 hours and never came back. Massachusetts, 1986. The sky over state prison was gray that Friday morning as Willie Horton, serving a life sentence without parole, stood in line for what the state called a rehabilitation furlough. The program was simple: reward inmates who behaved well by allowing them temporary weekend leave, a way to prepare them for real life again. Horton had earned his pass, on paper, at least. Guard shook his hand, signed the release papers, and watched him step into a car waiting outside the gate. He was supposed to be back by Sunday night, but Sunday came and went. Monday morning, still no Horton. Calls went out to his listed contacts, but he'd vanished. The state assumed a delay or transportation issue. By Tuesday, panic set in. The unthinkable had happened. A convicted murderer was missing, released by the system itself. Inside the governor's office, phones rang nonstop. The prison warden faced cameras, tried to assure the public that this was an isolated oversight. But deep down, everyone knew this wasn't oversight. It was a crisis. Then came a chilling update. Horton had crossed state lines. He wasn't missing. He was gone. That single mistake would change U.S. prison policy forever. The search for Willie Horton spread across the East Coast. The FBI joined local law enforcement, tracking reports from gas stations and motels. Every hour that passed made the state look worse. How could a man sentenced to life for murder just walk out? Asked one Boston reporter. The answer lay in a system built on trust and political pressure to show compassionate reform. The weekend furlough program had been praised by officials as a success. Hundreds of inmates had completed their leaves without incident. But Horton's disappearance was different. Days turned into weeks, and the media pounced. Headlines read, "Killer vanishes on state-approved leave." The public was furious. Fear spread fast, and politicians scrambled for answers. Behind the scenes, the governor's office launched damage control, quietly suspending all furloughs. But it was too late. Reports emerged that Horton had surfaced in Maryland, using fake names and blending into low-income neighborhoods. Detectives were closing in, but what they found next made the story explode. When authorities caught up to Horton nearly a year later, the details of what he'd done while on run sent shockwaves across the country. The case became political dynamite, reshaping the national conversation around crime, justice, and rehabilitation. Overnight, the weekend furlough became a dirty phrase in American politics. It wasn't just a scandal, it was a warning. And the fallout was only beginning to be why in 1988, Willie Horton's name was everywhere. His case was no longer just about one man. It was about the failure of an entire system. During the U.S. presidential election, political campaigns turned Horton into a symbol of everything wrong with the justice system. His face appeared on TV ads and news reports nationwide. The public outrage was massive. In Massachusetts, the prison furlough program was permanently dismantled. States across America rushed to tighten release policies, closing loopholes and enforcing stricter parole rules. Horton, still behind bars, had unwittingly become one of the most infamous figures in American criminal history. His story cited in congressional debates, law classes, and media for decades to come. For victims' families, his case was proof that leniency could destroy lives. For reform advocates, it was a tragedy of timing, one man's actions undoing years of progress toward rehabilitation. But beyond the politics, one truth remained. The system had trusted him, and that trust had been shattered forever. Years later, reporters revisiting the case found officials still haunted by it. One former warden admitted, "We wanted to believe people could change. But that weekend, everything changed us instead." The story of Willie Horton is now taught as a turning point in U.S. criminal justice. How one decision, one signature, and one missing inmate transformed policy and perception alike. A weekend meant to symbolize freedom became the most infamous parole disaster in American history.